Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. ISIS, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL, emerged as a powerful and brutal extremist group with radical interpretations of Islam. The origins of ISIS can be traced back to the early 2000s, and are deeply rooted in the complex political, social, and historical context of the Middle East, as well as Western intervention, which has destabilized the region further. One of the key factors contributing to the rise of ISIS was the aftermath of the 2003 United States-led invasion of Iraq and the subsequent overthrowing of Saddam Hussein's regime. Naturally, the invasion and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein created a power vacuum and political instability in Iraq, which provided an opportunity for extremist groups to gain a foothold. Disaffected Sunni Arabs, many of whom were originally funded by US intelligence agencies to fight Al-Qaeda, were then marginalised and excluded from the post-invasion political process, and they would go on to form the core of what would later become ISIS. The origins of ISIS can also be linked to the broader regional dynamics of the Middle East, including the Syrian civil war, which began in 2011 as a popular uprising against President Bashar al-Assad. The civil war would go on to further fuel the rise of ISIS. As the conflict escalated, various rebel groups emerged, including some that eventually pledged allegiance to ISIS. Naturally, the chaos and fragmentation in Syria allowed ISIS to expand its influence and establish a strong presence in the country. Yet again, US funding would once again support the growth of ISIS, whether that be inadvertently or dare I say purposely. The US and the UK, as well as many other Western powers, would fund rebel groups fighting against Bashar al-Assad without the first clue of who they even were or who they were affiliated to. Once again, many who were originally masquerading as rebels would be exposed to be ISIS members. Another critical factor in the origins of ISIS was the ideological and financial support that it received. The group drew inspiration from a distorted interpretation of Islamic teachings, aiming to establish an Islamic caliphate governed by its extremist ideology. This ideology attracted and radicalized individuals from around the world, including foreign fighters such as individuals from the UK who joined the ranks of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Moreover, ISIS managed to accumulate substantial financial resources through various means. It took advantage of the oil infrastructure in areas it controlled, engaging in illicit oil trade, extortion, and other criminal activities. Additionally, ISIS obtained significant funding through donations from sympathizers and external networks. The emergence and expansion of ISIS were also facilitated by the effective use of social media and propaganda. The group utilized online platforms such as Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook to spread its extremist ideology, recruit new members, and inspire attacks both in the Middle East and abroad. The sophisticated online propaganda machine of ISIS helped attract a global following and generated a sense of fear and notoriety. In summary, the origins of ISIS can be attributed to a combination of factors, including the power vacuum in Iraq, the Syrian civil war, regional dynamics, ideological and financial supports, and the very effective use of social media. Understanding these complex factors is crucial for comprehending the rise and evolution of ISIS as a significant threat to regional stability and international security. One of the calling cards of ISIS in recent years has been their gruesome propaganda videos that have flooded the internet. Many speculate that the extremist group took inspiration from the spate of Mexican cartel execution videos that were released in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Terror groups such as Al-Qaeda and Muntada al-Ansar have frequently used filmed executions, even before the existence of ISIS. During the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan in particular, various videos made their way online depicting horrific beheadings, most notably of Daniel Pearl in 2002 and Nick Berg in 2004, as well as a whole host of others. Interestingly, it is believed that Mexican drug cartels took inspiration from the graphic videos that came out during the War on Terror in the first decade of the 2000s. They saw the effect in which such videos had on the population and the fear that they spread. Drug cartels such as Los Zetas, the Gulf Cartel and others would then adopt similar tactics to Al-Qaeda in regards to gruesome propaganda videos, though they would up the ante, recording even more graphic videos than those that came out of the War on Terror. Instead of just beheadings, cartels would film even more graphic content such as live dismemberments, castrations, and other horrific acts of cruelty. ISIS would then take note of the depravity perpetrated by Mexican drug cartels on film, though they would add their own flair and pizzazz to their content. As gruesome ISIS videos began to make the rounds online, particularly in the mid-2010s, they became known for their high levels of production value, editing, audio, and graphics. Some videos looked akin to a Hollywood production, such as the Eid al-Adha massacre, also known as the Human Slaughterhouse video, which of course I have previously covered on the channel. Unfortunately, ISIS have a category of incredibly brutal, graphic, and sadistic content which is all far too easy to find online. Which takes us to the topic of today's video. What are the most gruesome videos filmed by ISIS? But nevertheless, let's take a journey into a bottomless abyss of depravity and cruelty. Number 1. The murder of FADI AMAR ZIDAN. During October of 2015, graphic footage was released by ISIS which depicted the murder of FADI AMAR ZIDAN. FADI was a 19-year-old Syrian soldier who was fighting under the orders of the Bashar al-Assad regime to combat ISIS and various extremist groups. The backstory surrounding the video is murky to say the least, though it is suspected that FADI was captured after a firefight between the Syrian army and ISIS. The entire video is 2 minutes and 34 seconds in length. The beginning of the video shows the 19-year-old prisoner on his knees, dressed in an orange jumpsuit with his hands tied behind his back, and he confesses in Arabic to being a Syrian soldier named FADI AMAR ZIDAN from the town of Latakia in Syria. He states, "I joined the army under contract with the Air Force Intelligence. I registered for contract in the airport of Hamar, and they sent me to serve in the field of Shair, and I stayed there for 7 months. Then they sent me to an area named Jazil, where I remained for 4 days. Then, the Islamic State caught me when I was in the Jazil area. I was a tank driver, and I used a tank to run over the bodies of the Islamic State soldiers. After the victim reads out his statement, the video then transitions and shows an ISIS member in a white robe standing behind him. The man in the white robe reads out a brief statement and says the following: "This apostate, Dirty Nasiri, ran over our brothers who were dead in a tank. So, it was decided that he will be run over by the tank while he is indeed alive." For those wondering, the Nasiri is a religious group that follows a branch of Shiite Islam. At around 1 minute and 40 seconds into the video, it transitions into a new segment, which is the execution. The video is edited with dramatic music, which resembles a human heartbeat, and it shows the victim, FADI, walking down a road in one scene, then a tank driving down the road in another. The video transitions again, and you see FADI standing in the road, with his hands tied behind his back, and his feet tied together so that he can't run away. The tank drives towards the victim, and as it gets closer, FADI tries to hop out of the way of the tank, though to no avail. The tank tracks then crush FADI as he tries to get away. Music then starts playing. The camera shot changes, and you get a head-on view of the tank tracks running over the victim. After the tank runs over FADI, you see 4 armed ISIS members cheer as FADI's deceased and crushed corpse lays on the road. You then get a close-up of the body. FADI's legs have been completely crushed. You see his mangled feet and legs, and you see some crushed bone. FADI's head has also been completely destroyed. It is totally flat, with brain matter, flesh, and pieces of skull on the road. You hear the ISIS members cheer in the background as the video ends. According to news reports, this was the first time that ISIS used the tank as an execution method, though it is said that ISIS now consider it as an official means of execution. Number 2. Dismemberment by child soldiers. One of the worst aspects of gruesome ISIS videos online is the frequent use of child soldiers. Many videos exist online showing child ISIS soldiers executing captives by various methods, from gunshots to the head to even beheadings. Seeing such young children groomed into such an organisation is incredibly sad, and watching child soldiers execute captives are easily among the worst ISIS videos available. Many such videos will be framed as training type exercises for young ISIS fighters. Very often in the videos, older ISIS members will accompany the child as they are perpetrating the horrific acts. Ultimately, this is a method that we also see with various drug cartels. Very often, children are recruited from a young age, with such groups targeting those who are vulnerable, with no one to look out for them. They will then be blooded into the group, and will be made to feel as if they are part of a brotherhood and a family. Very often, something they were lacking before they were recruited. Eventually, they will be assigned gruesome tasks, such as the case with ISIS, and they will be instructed to execute prisoners. The idea is, the younger the recruit is when seeing and committing such violence, the more effective of a warrior they will be. Many recruits are completely desensitized to such violence, even as a child. In the fall of 2017, ISIS released a gruesome 8-minute video depicting the savage execution of a prisoner. The victim is said to have been accused of being a spy for the USA, and the executioners were orphans whose parents were said to have been killed in airstrikes. The video was said to be filmed in the Khorasan province, a mountainous border region stretching across parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The original video was 8 minutes long, though I cannot find the original copy. However, the execution segment, or at least part of it, is still available online. The version of the video that I found was 40 seconds long, and it details the execution of the alleged spy. The victim, who is once again wearing an orange jumpsuit, can be seen standing up, though his arms have been chained to 2 trees, which essentially forces him to stand with his arms outstretched. A man then reads out a statement accusing the victim of being a spy. 2 young boys, who look to be teenagers, can be seen standing behind him. After the statement is read, you see close-up shots of the victim before his execution, and he looks resigned to his fate. The boys, who are standing behind him, are holding their arms over their head, like they are about to swing something. On closer inspection, you see that the 2 boys are about to swing swords. The video then shows the 2 young boys swinging the sword simultaneously, and they cut off the victim's outstretched arms. They manage to cut them off in one swing, though this could actually be due to editing. You then get a few seconds of a close-up shot of the older ISIS member slitting the victim's throat. The camera then freezes into a still shot and zooms into the victim's eyes as he is being beheaded. The clip then jump cuts, and it shows the victim's headless and armless corpse. It also shows the victim's chained and severed arms hanging off the trees by the chains. The video ends as an even younger child, who must be 7 to 9 years old, reads out a statement as he has 1 foot on the victim's severed head. This is where the video ends. This clip is without doubt extremely disturbing, not only due to the graphic murder, but more so the presence of child fighters during the atrocity. Number 3. Turkish soldiers burned alive. This is considered by some as one of the most graphic and disturbing ISIS videos out there. As mentioned, when it comes to videos uploaded by ISIS, very often they are heavily edited, with graphics and music playing over the video. Sometimes, large parts of the execution will be edited out of the videos. However, this clip shows a lot more depravity than most ISIS videos. The clip is an older one, believed to have been released in 2016. Talib Akurt was among the ISIS thugs who filmed themselves burning alive 2 soldiers after capturing them in the city of Aleppo in Syria in 2016. Following the release of the grisly video, Talib Akurt was placed on Turkey's most wanted list and had a bounty on his head worth roughly $250,000 for any information leading to his capture. Talib didn't last long, however. US-backed Syrian defense forces reportedly killed the ISIS executioner Talib Akurt on the 7th of June 2018 after an attack in Hajin, a small city in eastern Syria. Talib Akurt was considered as the ringleader behind the execution of the 2 Turkish pilots, though his accomplices still remain at large and are wanted by Turkish authorities. The footage sparked outrage in Turkey, as it was released when the Turkish military was suffering its worst losses in its fights against jihadists in northern Syria. The video itself is just over 3 minutes long, and is arguably the most intensely disturbing covered in today's video. As you play the clip, ISIS propaganda music can be heard playing, and you get a dramatic close-up of an ISIS fighter who is wearing an all-black robe and a combat vest. He pulls out what appears to be some kind of electronic device. It looks like some type of walkie-talkie, or even some sort of remote. He presses a button on the device, and the video smoothly transitions into showing the 2 Turkish soldiers who are standing up but have chains attached to them so they can't run away. As the ISIS member presses the button on the remote, it causes fire to ignite behind the victims. A trail of flammable liquid leads directly to where the victims are standing. You see the flames slowly but surely get closer and closer to the 2 Turkish captives. You see the flame slowly make its way up the chain of both captives before, eventually, both men are set ablaze. Both men scream in agony as they attempt to run, but they cannot due to the chains. The victims also both try to drop and roll to extinguish the flames, though to no avail. The captive, who is on the left of the picture on the screen, screams and pleads for his older brother. He may be referring to his fellow captive. One of the victims then tries to use his bare hands to extinguish the flames in a panicked attempt to save his own life. The flames, however, slowly consume both men, and the video then shows close-ups as they continue to burn alive. One of the men has curled in a ball, while the other drops to the ground on his back, and it appears that he is stiffening up as he continues to burn. The camera then focuses on the man who is on his back. He is still alive as the flames continue to burn. He says something as he moves his arms, and the flesh on his hands and arms appears to have almost been melted away. The video then intermittently shows both men as they are nearly dead. After a while, it's hard to make out which victim is which due to the severe burns. As one of the victims is close to death, as he breathes, you see bubbles of mucus come out of his mouth, and the other has his tongue sticking out constantly as he tries to breathe. After what seems like an eternity of suffering, both men eventually die, and their bodies have stiffened like statues. The video once again shows the executioner, Talib Akurt, as he reads out a statement and holds a container of gasoline. He then pours more of the flammable liquid on one of the victims, who is already dead at this point. This creates a huge gulf of fire, before eventually the video fades to black and ends. In regards to prolonged suffering and manner of execution, this for me is one of the worst ISIS videos out there, certainly among the worst I've seen at least. The close-up shots of the 2 men burning alive is extremely hard to watch. But anyway, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it, if you can enjoy this sort of content. When it comes to ISIS and ISIS content, I have to admit it is not my speciality, but many of you guys have suggested that I cover more ISIS topics, so this one is for you. When it comes to ISIS, I find these videos hard to make because there's a lot I would like to say in regards to the creation of ISIS and how it isn't organic, if you catch my drift, but I just can't get into that on YouTube without the risk of being called a conspiracy theorist and then subsequently having the video deleted by YouTube. I can only say what I can say, unfortunately. And again, I'm no expert on when it comes to ISIS content, so I'm sure there's plenty more extremely graphic videos out there that some of you guys may deem as worse than the ones I've covered today. But anyway, as always guys, thank you for the support, it is much appreciated. If you could, check out my Twitter, the link will be in the pinned comment. Feel free to drop me a DM, that would be great, if you have any topic ideas for example. Also, the link to my Twitch is also in the pinned comment, so if you could check that out, that would be amazing. But anyway, as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.